Hello there, this is the Best Guy 19, and as my first video for my channel, I will be mentioning some lore for the video game series Fear and Hunger. Fear and Hunger, it's a indie game series, so I would recommend checking it out. For those who love horror, for those who love RPGs, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And it helps out smaller creators, so I would definitely recommend that anyone interested in those things check it out. What we're going to be speaking about briefly today is the lore surrounding the warrior deity Yggaegetsu. So Yggaegetsu is briefly mentioned in Fear and Hunger as well as Fear and Hunger Termina as being a warrior deity, and the amulet associated with this deity directly influences your critical hits, I believe. And so this is a clear connection to the idea of being a warrior or war god. However, we do know that there are either the old gods, ascended gods, or perhaps a new god that could be the true identity of Yggaegetsu. So I will just give my opinion in this front, and you're free to disagree. Tell me what you think in the comments below. So in terms of Yggaegetsu, we know that this is a warrior deity, and the amulet and items associated with it are clearly made for increasing combat potential and combat effectiveness. Now, there are actually a couple of the purer gods that could be connected with Yggaegetsu. One of these could, of course, be Groggoroth. Groggoroth being the god of human sacrifice, of destruction, of death, and potentially walking the world as a human on occasion, certainly could be interpreted as like a warrior deity. However, I doubt this because of the fact that Yggaegetsu, you would imagine that there would be more perhaps magics or items associated with it that directly reference something similar to Groggoroth. One of the few items we have that mention it is the Yggaegetsu amulet that boosts critical rate, and so that does not seem particularly likely to be Groggoroth, although it could be in a varying interpretation. Groggoroth, remember, is the source of blood magics, such as in the first game, like pyromancy trick, combustion, but also necromancy. So I'm not sure that that fits in terms of being an interpretation for Yggaegetsu. Now, one other interpretation that I've thought about that could work is Ulmer. Ulmer being a god that once he ascends, he essentially becomes a warrior and topples the previous kings and sultans that had ruled before, which are highly implied to be new gods. Ulmer, although in the first game is mostly mentioned in terms of being the source of magic such as cloning food, producing portals, Ulmer is also the source of magic for something like Blood Portal, and is also the god that is the source of the Blood Sword magics. And so there is certainly a warlike quality to him. However, I also doubt this because you would think that an interpretation of Ulmer would be slightly more obvious or picked up on in terms of the lore, especially with things like the Yellow Mages and Dark Priests, who do delve into the magic of the old and ascended gods, you would think that you might see something that is more concrete in terms of a connection to Almer. Now, here comes possibly the most boring case, but it's also the one that I would think is the most likely, and that is the idea that Yggaegetsu is a new god. I know. Believe me, it seemed like the obvious choice, but I would imagine that Yggaegetsu is a new god.